Okay, yep, cool. Hello everyone. Now after all the introductions, my introduction. My name is Murtaza. I'm a software developer here at Synazip. I'm basically a Java developer, JavaScript developer. I have experience in developing Tapestry, Spring, MVC, Eclipse applications with JavaScript, Node.js, AngularJS, everything on the hood. Now, if you want to contact me, this is my email address. You can catch me on Facebook and also on LinkedIn. So to get started, I'll show you the agenda first, what it feels like, what is there in Angular that what we are going to cover. This is an introductory session, as Mukund said. So probably we'll cover a little bit of depth first, and then we'll jump to examples in between. So I'll answer questions like why it is AngularJS, why is there a need for AngularJS, what is it that it does differently, and why is it so heavily used by people nowadays. Secondly, what is AngularJS, what it comprises of, a basic overview of how the project is and where it is right now. Then we'll be going deep. We'll getting started. I'll show you how basic anatomy of an Angular app looks like. So how can you structure it, what it includes to you work with Angular, how to get started. Then I'll go about a few concepts like MVC, data binding, expressions, filters, directives, services, and dependency injections. So these are basic cores that forms the base of Angular. Then I'll go over a demo, a full-fledged demo. I'll create a sample app, not much, but it'll give you a feel of various pieces, how pieces fit together. Also, while getting started, I'll give you a mini demo of data binding and binding expressions, so that you'll get a hook as how pieces are working together. Then I'll go for more useful stuffs like form validations and custom directives, how to create them. And then I'll give you a basic intro on what's the best practices, what is that you should do, what you shouldn't do, so that your application looks scalable and better, modular. Then obviously question answers. So why AngularJS? Well, HTML has been great for static content. You can say that if you want to show your content like static HTML, it works fine. You have all tags, you have all styling things. So you place things in the tags, you can style it differently and it works. But again, there is some problems that appear. It gets complex when you make this HTML dynamic. You see, you have to add bindings, event bindings, you have to handle it, you have to do form validations, you have to configure, and all this through bare bone scripts. So you're on a browser support, and also then you'll need another libraries to help you out with them. Plus, which obviously now it takes care of browser inconsistencies. But again, this is an attempt to make even over them. So what does Angular do? It'll make static. It's an attempt to make static HTML dynamic. You can create tags in this basically. Have you heard that? You have input tags, you have select tags, you have div tags. Can you create a new one by yourself according to your needs? Can you answer me? Anyone? Of course. In Angular, it provides a method that you can do it. So you can add behavior to it, you can custom elements, you can do that. So I'll explain you later on. So it obviously makes dynamic. It's also easier. You'll see that a lot of your boilerplate stuff has gone. You don't have to work with them. Plus, when these things you don't have to, obviously development becomes fun. Next, it's flexible and extensible. So what do I mean by flexible is there are many ways to do something. It doesn't push you to use it in a particular structure. So like other libraries that they want a specific hierarchy to be maintained to implement some stuff, or they have some specific construct that you have to adhere to. Well, Angular is free of that, and many things that you can do as per your needs, and it's extensible, so it's open source. Obviously, you can create your own. It's nothing that the language has it and you can't have it. You can create your own. Then it's well organized. Probably this is for making an application structured. That is, as the application grows on and on, it becomes very cohesive. Things are very tightly coupled. You need to move it out so that you can use other pieces can use it, and probably, of course, it will make it's modular, so that other pieces can be moved out without breaking other parts of your application. Then it's obviously less write code because most of the things will be handled by Angular now. Now, it's also a very big need now that all the applications needs to be qualitatively tested, like unit tests, E2E tests, end-to-end tests. So why is it so that other applications do that, but since they are so cohesive nature that they are so tightly coupled, you can't test individual pieces, bits and pieces. Well, Angular is focused on that. It's divided. You can do it from the ground up, from the initial start. It provides you with testing capabilities, so you can test out your application completely, even small bits of it. So it's also versatile now that all languages are coming up for every other thing, like D3 for animations, jQuery for handling pieces like, and Socket.io for all those things. Well, Angular doesn't conflict with them; it will be work with them. So it won't be a problem to introducing that also in your script. So what is Angular? Now I'll say this is basically about overview of project, how it is. It's in a free framework, free open source. It's currently in 1.2.6, 16 versions. 2.0 is focused on mobiles, but it's again in the near future probably. But the designing has started not yet soon. It has a vibrant community that obviously you can look forward to for your documentation, for good articles, even to fill up your gaps. Then, yeah, there is a project homepage at angularjs.org. This will be a base page, and you can find nice guides, nice directives, nice references, API references everywhere. And plus, there are many helpful videos by the community that they continuously add to that. Browser support i8 plus. i8, yes, it does, but it has some tweaks in that. You have to manage it, and it will work fine. But though the testing now i8 is quite old, they offer that we won't test it, but we do have some support for them. Now IE9 is full-fledged support. All the A browsers like Firefox, Chrome, and Safari. Who is using it? There are a lot of applications that are using it. YouTube is using it for PSD application, Duplunker, DoubleClick. All these well-known applications we are being used using Angular, and obviously there are many more lists which is not shown here. So what is Angular? Angular is comprised of these features first. Now you must have heard of MVC. Well, for Java developers, you must have known Java.NET that MVC obviously is been at server side. Recently, there's a shift in the ideology that we should have MVC on the client side. MVC stands basically for Model View Controller. Now, the servers are basically turning up to be a interface for your database, not serving content. The content is loaded first, and then you have nice segregation of how the view should be, and you remove individual pieces. This is the gist of MVC. Angular is an MVC framework, so it's like Model View Controller. It has models, it has view, it has controllers. If you want to use it, it is also a MVVM framework. So Model View Model is a slight deviation from MVC where there is no controller. So it stands for MVC, and it support various fashions of MV frameworks. So that's why they have called it the MVW. So what does it mean is MV whatever you want to call it. Probably Angular fits that fashion too. Now it's a SPA framework. Although there's a SPA framework, but it's not limited to SPA. You can use it for a single page also. Single page SPA means single page applications, like Twitter right now. It's basically a single page. When you go to Twitter, it basically loads a base page, and obviously the inner parts keep on changing as you interact with it. So that's basically hint will be you see the URL, there will be a hash over there, and the URL will keep on changing. So that's a single page application. So it's also a SPA framework if you want to utilize that effort. Then there are these basic features that Angular provides, which is magical. Data binding, directives, filters, dependency injection, services, and testability. So I'll cover these in the coming slides. And these are the core features that make up Angular and what people love about. So what does it comprise of AngularJS? That the script that you load, it's AngularJS script. So basically Angular, when you download an AngularJS Angular script, it's comprised of the core, Angular core, which has services, directives, and filters built into it. The built-in things that you can utilize out of the box. And also there is a small part called JQ Lite. JQ Lite is supposed to be a stripped-down version of jQuery. This will help Angular. Angular uses it to communicate with DOM. Okay, this is although Angular uses it, but you're also free to use it. There are APIs exposed to it, and you can utilize it. Now, what Angular? This is a basic Angular framework that comes up. Even the Angular community has broken up this again into other modules. So probably they have moved out routing, like SPA application, the SPA framework out, so that if you want it, you can inject it. So there are many other services available by Angular, and you can utilize them. Like there's ng animate, ng route, ng animate helps you with animations in your. So if you want, you can include it. But that is not from the core of the application. Then there is third-party modules. The third-party modules again utilize Angular core to give you more more out of the box. Like you have jQuery UI for jQuery, like how it creates many tags for you and you can basically use it. Angular also has that. It has extended Bootstrap framework, and given you Angular UI, it will have all tabs, accordions, date pickers, and this will be supported through Angular. So you don't have to do anything special to hook them up. And where's your application? Well, your application can communicate, use all these things. Your application built off all these things. Getting started, how Angular looks like. Well, when you're starting with Angular, first of all, you need the script that's available AngularJS from the angularjs.org. So this is the basic dump how HTML looks like. So here you see, first thing I see here is Angular. This is what I just include the script here, and that's all I want to do. This is a basic structure that you can have to test out features on it. So you want to play with things like you want to test out how things are, what all Angular provides. Well, this is the basic structure that you can adhere to. You just say AngularJS include the script. You say this ng app. Well, what is ng app here? Ng app is a directive. I'll cover shortly. But when you say ng app, it acts like a key to your, say it's a key to a car. So it's a key to your Angular. So when your AngularJS starts, boots up, it looks for this ng app, and it decides that this is the starting point where I should adhere to, where should I look for. So it's not necessary that you give it on body. You can give it on head also. You can give it on any other directive, but Angular will only be active on that area, all the child of it, not anywhere above. And once you have said ng app, you can define this. So this is again input type tags. Obviously, it's an input tag with the additional of ng model, where I provide something and I can display it. This is kind of a hello world to check that Angular has bootstrapped properly. Now, this is great for testing out, but obviously it's not scalable. I haven't included scripts here. So what is a better design that you can follow? Here you can have AngularJS. What I do is, I have Angular here, but I also create a new script, app.js. You can name it anything. So that script will actually have a function called your controller, basically. This controller, you can decide, you can wrap your content into this controller, and you can pass the name to the controller function, and this is the name of this function that will be invoked in the AngularJS script. So this is a better one because you can leverage more of Angular through this pattern. When you give scripts, you have the support, you can add directives made like this. But however, this is again fail short that here you are exposing everything on the global namespace. So if you follow this pattern, probably you'll be covering all the functions, making it global. So which you won't need that. So even for scalable, getting more scalable, you can choose for this design. Basically, this is how your application will look like. Say I say ng app with the difference of I supply a name to it. So this my app will relate to a module in your script. You say Angular is a global variable that will be available when you inject the script. So you say angular.module and you create a module for your application. You name it so, and you can define a controller on it, like through this. The body remains the same, just the name now changes. It's Angular with the name. That's it. So this is equivalent of the first example, the second example that I showed. But if you adhere to this pattern, probably it's going to be more scalable. So what is MVC now? MVC stands for basic model, view, and controller. So in theory, obviously, but what does it mean in Angular world? Well, in Angular world, there's nothing. Module is basically a plain object, JavaScript object. View is your HTML, CSS, whereas controller is nothing, no derived types. No, you don't have to adhere to a specific syntax. You don't have to inherit an object, but it becomes a plain function. So controllers are basically view is your HTML that is going to be shown to the user. Model is which holds your data, and the controller is a business function that you have to wrap it. So I have to do some business logic that goes into a controller, and here in Angular world it means it goes in the function. So these contains your APIs basically that you need to handle. View is how it will look to the user, and the the model is a plain object that Angular will use, the view will use to paint itself. So when I say HTML, this is how it looks like. But when I say model, basically think that it is a glue that is binding your HTML and the controller together. So when you want something from a controller to view or view to controller, you'll basically do that on the glue, the scope object. So what is it called here? It's called a scope object. This. So this is your model. So now in the syntax wise, what does it look like? First, you'll have it on a view, you will say any tag, you will say my controller, ng controller. You'll supply a name to that. So that you say here that which function is the controlling this part of this area of your HTML. You have a view my controller. You specify in the JS script. You say my control, and you obviously have a my $scope here, which automatically gets passed through Angular. Let's not worry about who gets the Angular, how it comes. I'll explain you how from where it will get you. But yes, this is the model that gets passed directly to your controller. Yes, please.
Is this all on the client side?
Yes.
And all the MVCs?
Yes, on the client side. No server side here right now. Anyone else? Any questions?
Yeah, for the model, why do we need to pass the empty array?
Empty? Sorry?
Empty array on the earlier
Sorry.
Okay.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, don't get confused. Yeah, this is while creating a module. This is not a scope. That is not an array. This is not a model. This is a dependency section. When you create a module and you want to make use of other modules that someone from the third-party library or the Angular, you specify the name here. So this will get injected into your application. Okay, no confusions here. The scope is separate. It's not to be confused with this. Okay, so what is data binding? This is an important feature that you should look forward for. This is what is the magic in Angular. Data binding. Data binding means anything that you have on a view, your HTML, the select options, the input tags, the checkboxes, those are part of view. And you provide, there is a mechanism wherein those things directly get updated from the model. So the controller will update the properties, when in the function I have say my name, username. So that username will be provided into the text box. So an sample example. If that is provided in a text box, how will my function come to know what my value is supplied by the user from that input tag? Well, I hope you're following me. Suppose I have a username and password form, and a user will write over there his username and password. Now generally, you have to know that in your function, you do event bindings to get the value out of it, right? So now you needed that event binding just to get the value out of it, and suppose you want to even update the password or refresh the password after some action. What you wanted to do is you again had to take that element, erase its content. So that's how the traditional communication happens, right? In Angular, the view and the model. So basically, your function will have a variable. You only you're concerned with the variables, no more with the events, no more with the tags. You have a value here. You specify that value in the view HTML. I'll show you an example. Don't get confused. And they'll directly be mapped. So if you want to erase the username, you want to erase the password, just in your function say username equal to blank, and you don't have to do anything else. Automatically Angular will refresh the content with a markup when we'll set it as blank. Similarly, if anyone updates the input text box from the HTML, a user, you don't have to send it back. You don't have to do anything to send it back to the function. Those things will directly be communicated to your function. So there also you can utilize it directly as a variable. Okay. So this is, and it's a dynamic. You don't have to do anything. Angular provides it out of the box, automatic to you. So well, this will eliminate the need for all the event bindings, your change listeners, your focuses, your text box. Okay. And how can achieve it through various these directives that is available to you. Data binding can happen on the scope object. You can happen on the ng module binding. There is a watch expression that Angular provides. So I'll explain it later. Let's go on. I explained something about bindings. I showed you. Well, what is the syntax of bindings? Suppose I want to have an expression into my view HTML. How do I say that? How do I use my variables? How do I use that to display something? Okay. So bindings will help you in that. So it's a double syntax is basically a double curly, wherein you will write an expression here, filter. You paste it anywhere, and Angular will compute it and show you the result output. Okay. The expressions, and what does the expression compose of? The expression is like a JavaScript code snippet. It is like JavaScript. It's not JavaScript. Okay. So you won't get. There's a limited functionality that you get with it. What do you say? You won't be able to do complex like loops, conditionals. Those are not allowed in this cover double curlies, right? It's not allowed. You can basically say a normal expression like this. You can say a normal string, and it will directly display it. You can also have variables into it. You can do normal computation with a variable, say a plus b. Okay. You can have user.name. All these things are shown in the controller, the function. Okay. Now, what does this a and b come from? One question would be, it will come from the scope object. Okay. So whatever you write in expression, those will get resolved on the scope object. You can even do function calls. The functions will be exposed on the scope object, and it will call you. Filters are nothing but the data that expression provides you. It will format it. Okay. So something like I have some name over there, and probably I want to display it as a upper caps. Okay. So you don't have to do it in the function. You just have a normal value and supply a filter to it. The filter name could be uppercase, lowercase. Angular provides you a bunch of filters. You have this, and it will directly convert it and show it as that filtered value. You can again, what are order by? Basically here you can sort even the filtered result value. Okay. Directives are nothing but custom elements. Basically, you can write your own, you expand your own. Okay. Any input element that you have, if you want to have extra behavior attached to it, you can write a directive for it. Okay. Directive allows you to interact with your HTML element as and when they are entered, and you get a chance to change the value, change the behavior. Okay. Now, even this can be used to. Okay. So, what are directives that are available to me? You can see these normal forms, ng form, right? Angular provides a directive called ng form. So don't get confused when they said like ng hyphen. Well, just understand that this is an extension to the normal element. Okay. So like here, ng click. Well, this can be as a direct extension to the click attribute of any element. You have ng class, you have ng check, you have ng controller, ng init. Some of these are new one, just like ng repeat, which Angular introduces to you. Those are not there in the custom Angular, custom HTML, but you will always feel a need for them. So Angular has added them, and you can reuse it freely. I'll show you. This is not an exhaustive list. There's many more. You can go to the references of Angular, and you'll find a bunch of them. Okay, many of them. So what are directives? Directives can be a new tag or attributes. Okay, a new tag basically like a tab attribute. I can write my own. I can have extra attribute called ng disabled. Okay, so on existing input tags, there is a disabled attribute that's provided by HTML, but I can say ng disabled, my own, and how it will interact with Angular world. Okay, you can also extend the custom one. That's what I said, and you can even use it to abstract markups. There is a need that when you're developing pages, you have custom thing like my username and your image or the profile avatar. Okay, you use it on several of your pages. Okay, so avatar basically your name and the photo of the user that comes in. Okay, you want to display it, and probably you'll display it on many of your pages. So what you can do is, you don't have to write those markup again and again. You can just create a directive out of it, and it will just paste it. Okay. I hope everyone's following me. Any questions? No. Okay. Now that's what I said. Directive can be a tag, an attribute. It can be even a class. When you say Angular trigger a directive behavior, you can say it in a class attribute, a new class. Probably that class won't do anything, but Angular will sense it and add the feature to it. Okay. Extend it. You can even set it in as a comment. Although this looks like magical, but it is not. It's only plain HTML and JavaScript. It's only abstracted to you so that you don't have to bother about it. Okay, now it's the time for a mini demo. I'll show you how these data binding and directives help. So, okay, this is my how the application will look like. This is a basic HTML. Let me open that thing. First, I'll show you how it looks like. See this. I said I have a text box, okay, and I need to display the what value has gone in from my function so that I come to know what value it is actively, okay. So traditionally there is a span here in this area, in this blank area, which should be updated when any text comes in this. So how do you do that? Traditionally, what will you do? Huh? So key up, key press, key down, right? And you'll bind that event, find that element, bind the event, and again reflect it back, right? So that's what. But what you don't have to do anymore. You don't have to do that anymore. So what I do is basically I inject a script into it. I get Angular support for it by saying ng app. Then I say ng model. Okay. I assign a variable to it. It's my string. So this is my name of a variable. Okay, that I'm going to use in a function. Now anything that happens on this text box, that will be reflected on my string, and which will be reflected across this page and even the controllers. So you can directly get the value out of it. So I hope you are visible. Is it visible? Yeah. Okay. I believe. Okay. Now, right? This my string. This will get continuously activated, continuously updated, and you can paste it anywhere using data binding. So I said data binding how it looks like, right? Here. So anything that I update on this, it will directly reflect it on here, as a next to the input text box. Let's see a demo. I press a key here, anything. Okay. So this is how I haven't bound any events here. There's nothing, no function, no JavaScript, only Angular and out of the box. Yes.
What happens in case of duplication of the model? Pardon me?
Duplication, has it?
Yeah, because I added one more input tag along with the same model.
Same model, that will also get reflected. Let's see. You have another one?
Yeah.
Let's refresh this page. Okay, now we have two, right? Use it anywhere, it gets directly updated. You don't have to worry about it. Okay, yeah. Since I don't have a controller here, Angular behind the scenes has created a controller for me, and that scope runs from start from the NGR. Exactly, exactly. So NGR basically gives you why you need this also. You can have various modules, various applications running on a single page. Okay, if I have a say a div which has an ng app, my one of the modules will interact only to that area. It won't affect somewhere else. Probably I can have a second div wrapper and it will have again ng app. Those scripts can be separately relegated difference of each other. Okay, they won't interact, they won't collide. Although this is not required in most of applications, you will only live with ng app once. Okay. Now this is how a basic anatomy looks like. Similarly, like I said, you should always follow this. You have my controller here. I have an Angular script. So again, reiterating, I have my own application script, best app. There is a module designed in it. So I'll show you the script. See, nothing but my string, Lauren Lipson. Okay. Here also I see as the same value, same name, my string. Maintain this as identical to the page where you have. Sorry, this one. It's on zooming as I wanted to. So here, what did I do is I didn't assign any value here. Check here, I didn't assign a value here. It just said that I'll be using my string to this. I'll be binding. How did it get its value here? Well, in my controller, I said my string should be this. So once you update it here, automatically the change traverses to your view. Yes. Okay. At the time of DOM load, probably when you're bootstrapping, it will be nothing. Okay, everything you'll be seeing plain text. But as soon as Angular comes into picture, it removes those bindings. So it won't be visible to you. These bindings that I show you here, you won't be seeing this in the page, right? When you load it, it won't be visible. Okay, Angular comes in, it removes this. It first sees your controller. It first sees your controller, it has something, then it binds that values what you have it to the view, the HTML. Okay, so probably yes, the controller should get first. The JavaScript should get activated first, and then the view. Your head, your AngularJS, your my script, and you have a controller. This is a controller that I defined, and this is the input. Okay. Well, let me stretch this further. Here. the piling. So it will start when your page. So when your application starts, Angular, it will scan for this ng app, okay, directives. All the directives it will scan for. The scripts are loaded. So scripts, all you define, all Angular, the directives that it has, right? In your script, AngularJS itself has some directives, right? So while loading, it knows that I have these many directives to look for. Then it checks your HTML, wherever you used it, and binds them together. So probably I have answered your question, right? No. So what I have done here is, see, it's an HTML, right? So you can add any number of tags here. If it is not of it, it won't complain, right? It will just keep it over there. Even it won't break it. Yeah. So somehow you need a mechanism to find these chunks up. This is how it does it. Okay. Similarly for this content which is in the double curly, this syntax. Okay. It won't complain. It's just basically a text to it. You can write anywhere, anything. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes. Right. Okay. The ng model expects a variable name to it. Okay. Whenever you want to use an ng model, this is how a directive is designed. Okay. This is what is expected. If you can only specify a direct value variable name to it. When you say this, you're free to use it. You can show any content to it. Okay.
After your HTML has loaded, then probably
it is visible.
Yeah,
it is visible.
It is visible.
Yes,
it has to be visible.
Yes. As soon as Angular comes into picture, it will remove it.
Yeah, but for a short period of time, your
will
user will see your milestone.
Yes, and there is also a mechanism not to have that. You can fix it. Okay, ng-cloak is basically the answer to that. You can move on that. So is this fine? Clear? Any questions?
Curly braces, like you did in like my string. If there is another string called n string, will that be available as a scope variable in controller?
Yes. Yes.
Huh.
I have something like. It won't be. I mean, you see, it won't be displayed anything. It's basically null to it. Sorry. Yeah. This is the same example, right? That thing got assigned. It's on the scope. Your functions are free to use it, but no one is using it, displaying it anywhere. So whenever you want to display your values, okay, you use the double clearly syntax.
Some other. Can I do that in controller or in the Angular JS code script?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You are free to do that.
Okay.
See, this won't complain. The beauty is wherever you like to add new things, you can do it in HTML. Angular is not going to complain. Neither is HTML. You can do it on functions. Angular is going to do it. Okay?
Okay.
You're free to use it anywhere, as many as you want. A new one you can introduce anywhere. It's not necessary that what you use it in your HTML should be there in your function controller.
No. I'm asking is like suppose open here that JS file. Okay. Right here $scope dot some other any string. Okay.
The name should be right. The name should be right.
Save it.
Some other.
better.
No, I have. Best.html includes best.app.js.
No, you have changed the better app.js.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, my bad. Dollar scope dot say what else? Some other, right?
Yes.
So that's what is the first example I showed you, right? The same thing.
No, if, okay.
It's here.
No, I thought it might be binded only to the controls, like elements, like input. If you specify only ng model or
No,
ng.
no.
Okay.
It's
that's
available on your scope.
fine. Okay, thanks.
Sure, let's move on from this. I hope any other questions? Let's, okay. Yeah, please.
Just one way binding.
Huh? Tell me. So,
On the site of AngularJS documentation, they have showed first step as bootstrapping.
yes.
So is it necessary all the time we have to do bootstrapping whenever we want to run our application?
Bootstrapping is the next level. It's an advanced level where you don't want to do say ng app to an application, but you do it manually. Okay, it does the same thing. When you say ng app, it's bootstrapping.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Now moving on to the next example. Data bindings. I think almost I've shown you most of this. Yes. Yeah. See this how this is to the question that's already answered. You have anything here, it directly gets afflicted. You do it on any other ng or text box, it again it's the same behavior, irrespective where you say it. Here I can also use, there's something called ng hide that you can use. See the checkbox, this is bound to a variable, okay, hide. In this example, when you see here, this is the input type checkbox, right? It is bound to one model set hide, okay. Now whenever this checkbox is checked or unchecked, that value, boolean value is reflected on hide, okay. And see here how I'm using ng hide here. There's another directive that allows, that shows or hides a element, a tag, a container, okay. So it depends on this value of hide. So as this is changed, the effect over here is reflected. See this. Currently this is visible. When I say hide, it's gone. Okay. Similarly, there's another checkbox. Probably this is how, like how in the form installs you could do it. When I say I accept and I install, that the button gets enabled. Here also again I have used another directive called ng disabled, which depends on one model value called accepted, and that accepted is supplied through this checkbox. Okay. So visible. Okay. Yes. Now classes. There are also some directives that help you, manipulate tag classes. So ng class is that directive. So see the check out my borders. Okay. I've added classes to play with it. So if I want a dash, I'll just say dash, and it will have I've assigned a dash class to it. And when I say check, it gets applied on the element. Similarly with the colors, with the bottom, if I want to disable something. So how this is happening is, see here, my checkbox here, I have many checkboxes. Those are value assigned to various models, attributes. Okay. So dash, yellow, white. And how do I use an ng class? I have the structure wherein first I mention the class that I want to bind to only when this thing turns out to be true. So when I say dashed, when it's checked, it becomes true. When it becomes true, it will get assigned to the class attribute. It is not the normal class, it is ng class because it's extended behavior. Yes. Any questions? No, thank you. So is this clear? Now I'll show you an example of bindings, how bindings happen. See this? This is a simple binding that I showed. You have a text box and you get reflected. Simple string. And again I have a table of 2. So whatever number I write here, I get an output, right? Now I have inserted 2, how am I getting 4 here? Well, it's 2 again bindings. The input number supplies a my number to it, assigns value to it. So when I say 2, this will get 2. and 2 into 2, I can say an expression here, number into 2. This is an example of how bindings, you can have expressions in your bindings. Okay. And again, whenever change happens, this is again recompiled and probably reflected with the updates of new values. Similarly, for bindings and filters, say I want that whatever I write here should be converted to uppercase characters. So, okay. So what do I do differently here? I had a name here, but I separated a pipe character and I supplied a name of filter here. On the fly, that name still contains the original value, but what you see is the uppercase value. Similarly, you can have currencies. Like there is a uppercase, you have a currency directive filter. That probably converts the value whatever you supply to it and show it as an locale specific symbol. Yes. I'm sorry.
How does the validation happen here? If I put in currency, I put ABC. How does that get taken care of?
Because these are built-in directives. Angular senses them.
In the database, can you just go to that form again?
I'm not getting this.
Yeah, there in the uppercase, you can put some character,
Okay,
say
here.
semicolon or whatever.
Should I write something else?
Semicolon, yeah, semicolon. Not alphabet, any number.
Achha, you want to break it, okay.
Yeah, so there is no validation here,
No,
right?
nothing. So it won't affect it.
But there must be some way to.
See, uppercase only makes sense for a character, right?
Okay, but for a normal user, no? As we say, the users are like.
Okay, so
flexible.
that is a part of validation.
Yeah, so how does that happen here?
Validation is a separate thing. I'm going to cover it.
Okay.
It's not ready-madely available. Okay.
Thank you.
This is only for converters.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Table format D.
Yes, it'll break. It'll break. It'll say null. So there is a need of a validation there. Okay, validations are supported by Angular. You can do that. Okay. Yes. What you were supposed to do it, Angular is doing for it. That's what it's called a framework, right? Okay, moving on. This is for all the leads. Sorry.
Can we write separate functions for filters? Can we write functions for a filter?
Yes,
Okay.
you can do that.
Okay.
I haven't shown you an example, but it's possible. See, everything is extensible. Okay, everything is free. If you don't like something, you are free to create one. Angular provides that. Okay, with this. Sorry. Yep. Now this is the part where all the leads or probably who design code and they're going to like it. Services and directives. Services are what basically. Service you can consider as some part of your business logic that you want to abstract. You probably want to use it elsewhere, but you don't want to control it. So basically, this supplements your controller. You have some business logic attached to it, okay, and you want to use it elsewhere. What you do is you create a service out of that functionality and use it elsewhere wherever you want it. Okay. This is for modularizing your code. Say your business logic goes in a function, and your function has some business logic attached to it. And say a method basically, and you want it to be used somewhere else also to some other controller. So controllers can leverage these services on the fly. Okay. Now it can be used by controller services. Other services can depend on other services. Okay. There are other modules that can depend on these services. So how is it defined? You can write a service like this. So this is the basic step I told Angular first create a module through this syntax. Then you say a factory. Currently I'm saying services, but I'm showing an example of a factory. Services is also possible. So consider how a factory is made. A factory, you say a dot factory on Angular, then you say a name to it. Obviously you need a name for service. So this is the place where you show a name to it. Then you say a function, and over there in your functions just say your dependencies. Say a service can depend on other services that you want. Okay. So consider for now it's a black box. You just demand something and you get it. Okay. So all those demands can go into this part, the parameters of that function, and those will get ready-madely included in your function. Okay. And when as a factory, I can do some preliminary initialization stuff here. Some private variables, enclose it. You can do it here, and finally you have to return one object to it. That object probably will have APIs attached to it. So what I do is I return. Sorry, where's that? See, I want to expose that whenever someone uses this service, I should be able to do this, my method, okay? So whenever someone says greeter.my method, this function should get invoked. Okay? Similarly, you can have n number of functions here. It's someone like a normal JavaScript that you are extending an object for. Okay? So I say a function, I supply some text, so probably this text can also be supplied by the caller. Okay, and these have many flavors, the services. You can also create factories. You can also create providers. Although it's similar, they directly behave, it's a difference in a creational behavior. Service is basically for singleton. Factory is for factory patterns that you want to create new objects for. Providers is basically providing a kind of a mechanism that you can, while creating a service, before that you can configure it. Okay, so that is why you say a provider. All the syntaxes are provided. It's a nice guide. It's been provided in the API guides, Angular guides. With examples, you can explore that. Okay. The fashion is the same. It's for abstraction. Then there is dependency section. Well, I said how things get injected directly into things. You demand for stuff, you get it. But how you get it? Angular does that for you. Okay. You say. So what does it do is dependency injection initial when you're bootstrapping your application, when you're starting it. Okay. All the services are getting created, the modules are getting created, the directives are created. You assign a name to it. And whenever in the controllers you want it, you just say a name. Angular will make sure that whatever name you have supplied to it, those get provided to your controller. So what is it? It's a freedom from creating new instances. Generally when you create some objects, you have to say new. In Angular, you do no more have to say new. You just create through services, it will create and it will manage its own life cycle. It will also make sure that it will take care of, transitive dependencies. Say my one module that I want, it probably depends on some other module. And that again depends on some other module. So Angular will make sure that it computes the dependencies in that direction and you get the final object with all the dependencies built in. Okay? The other module in the middle can also be filled with the dependencies that it has. Okay? I hope I'm clear. Huh? Again, who handles this is basically called the Angular injector subsystem. It is available, you can explore this further on your official talks, how this injector comes into picture and how does it work. It's an advanced concept, okay. For now, we can safely assume that it's an injector and you demand it, it's like you demand it and you get it. Then all the services modules you have to use. See, scope is also a kind of dependency injected. When you say scope, Angular will directly name that, okay, you're looking for scope, I know what a scope is, I'll supply to you. You don't have to create one scope for yourself. Similarly, for HTTP service that is available by NG other services, modules, Greeter I just showed how we created one. And this is again crucial in writing a UTs and E2As. Suppose you have a controller and it depends on some other dependencies. How do you test that? How do you write that, okay, what is this controller expected to do? So obviously you will need to mock the dependencies. You need a sample. So Angular will create mocks for it if you ask for it. Okay? Yes. So although I haven't covered it, but probably this is a nice topic that you can explore further on. It will create mocks for you. So in your test is also you can directly say the name and Angular will provide a mock for you. Okay? Acha, and one word of caution here is, it is, if you have heard of Require.js and AMD.js, what does it do is basically script ordering for people. Basically, Angular dependency injection manages that it adds injections to it, dependencies into it. But those dependencies can come from different scripts. This Angular doesn't manage that ordering, that which script came first. You have to manage your own. Okay? For that purpose, you can use Require.js. So Require will work in parallel, it won't conflict. Okay? Okay, now I guess we'll take a break. Yep, we'll have. Okay.
So we have 3 for 10 minutes. There are 9 questions and we'll reconvene.
Yes. Yes. You can't. If you create a different NG app, there's a different application itself. Okay, even though if you want to, what you can do is, for the first application, you create a module.
Okay.
Okay, in the second application, while defining the module, I saw angular.module and I had the name and dependencies. Therein you can inject it. So all the controls will then be exposed. Okay.
Okay. So this module, is it a service or something that facilitates?
Yes, there was one question. No. You want the mic?
Controller uses services. So you told that there is no need to create using new or something.
Yes.
So is there any configuration we need to do so that controller will come to know that we need to means controller need to create the object of the service?
No, you don't.
So how it handles it?
Behind the scenes.
Creating. Okay.
Behind the scenes, it will do that. When the bootstrapping phase, it will look for all the services that you have defined. You know, I showed you Angular.service, Angular.factory. At that time, it's equivalent to a new. Okay. At that time, it has cached those things.
Oh.
Whenever it senses your function, it sees the names of the function, it will inject it.
Okay. So every time it creates new object.
I said there are other patterns available. Where if you want a singleton, you want just one instance to be created for the lifetime, you create a service.
Okay.
If you want new every time, you create a factory.
Oh,
Okay.
fine.
Okay. Let's proceed with the demo first. Give a small demo, or should do you want? Let's say I can cover theory first and probably come back to the demo. Okay. Okay. Now there is form validations. Say you want to validate part of your HTML. Angular has facility for that too. Okay. So there are built-in validators that are available. There is required as you can relate it to normal required, HTML5 required. You can type this called ng min length, max length. This ensures that you are in your limit. Okay, you specify a value to it, ng min length, max length, and it will make sure that whenever you increase it, it will throw you an error. ng pattern. So any custom like phone numbers that you're matching, email addresses that you're matching, you can use ng pattern. Or if you don't like any of these, you're free to create your own. It will be a directive and it will function in the same way. Okay. So how do you start validating it? How do you start? So first for the form wrapper and the internal input elements or all the elements, you create a name. You add a name attribute to it. So Angular will use that name, okay, and assign properties on that. It will manage states on that. Okay. So you can have my login form is named as my login form. So it will have states attached to that object and you can use it below, down, or in the controllers to know that if it is validated or not. Okay. So that name is important. Similarly, you can have name attached to your input tags, select tags, checkboxes, okay, within a form, and it will sense it. Names are only used for accessing. Okay. This is for your accessing that you want to make. You may want to access it. Now, what are the four properties that Angular provides to your form? First is pristine. D is dirty. Second is dirty. Third is invalid and valid. Pristine and dirty are the states of your, say, my text box. Okay. When initially the page is rendered in a form, obviously the element should be in the form. It will get assigned as $pristine. It will have a own property as $pristine. That is the initial phase. Say when my page loads and I have a username field, and it hasn't been touched by the user. So at that time, Angular will assign that element property called pristine and set it as true. So you can come to know that, okay, fine, it is not. It is a fresh state. And the moment he enters anything or erases things from it, it will turn dirty. So this flag will get set. Angular manages setting all these flag values. Okay, you don't have to. You can just read it and it will get reflected. Then there is, if the form is valid or not, how do you know that the individual element is true or the form has failed? You don't want to proceed. What do? You check for these properties on the name element. Okay. So if it is invalid is true, $invalid equal to true, then probably the form has some problems in it, and you don't. If everything goes right, it will be $valid, it will be true. Okay. All these state properties are assigned to individual form level also and the property elements also. So, as I said, you can access it through form name dot property. So property is what? Dot dollar pristine, dollar dirty, dollar invalid, dollar valid, and each will have a value assigned to it. Say true, false, or it's a boolean thing. Okay. So to know if it is dirty, you say form name dot dirty will be true or false, and you can interpret from it. Similarly, form elements, individual elements, input tags, HTML that you want to know the status of. Either it is in a valid state or invalid state. What do you want to do? So you can say form name my login form dot username field dot property. Property can be dollar valid, invalid. So if that is true, then probably you want to stop at that. So why form level and element level? So that it gives you granularity that even the form can fail, or even if the element has failed. So you can take corrective, display of error messages. Then there is apply these stylings. When it sets these values for you, it also attaches these classes for you. Okay, on this respective elements or form. So you have like ng valid, invalid, ng pristine, ng dirty. So even if the variable, the model has been set, it also attaches these classes to it. So probably you can have how my dirty should look like, how my invalid class should look like. You can have shadows, red borders, everything. And when it is green, obviously dirty can be valid can be with green. Similarly, these are top level, as if it is dirty or not, it is valid or not. But what if you want looking for a specific failure? Say it doesn't accomplish my required condition. Okay, or if it is max length, it has crossed my maximum length. So probably you will have different errors that you want to display, the error messages, right? So at that time, these classes will help you. Say I have my username, but it shouldn't be more than 8 characters. So my pattern will be ng min length, and I'll set it max length, and I'll set it as 8. Moment it goes above 8, that element will get applied a class called ng invalid max length. Okay, here I have given an example of valid. There is also an invalid one. So ng valid max length and invalid max length, and that classes will be there and it will get showed. Okay, it will be displayed. You can use the properties and you can use the name. That's the gist. Okay, one hint of caution. While using, if you want to use Angular for, you have to say no validator on the form element. This is for disabling the HTML5 auto validation. Okay, whenever you star on things. Okay.
Typically invalidate the HTML5 supported validation.
Not invalidate, you say no validate. Just HTML5 will simply ignore the validation of it. Okay. Okay. Now moving on. There is something called directives. How do you create a new directive? So this is a custom directive that you want, right? I'll give an example. I have my directive that should look like my name as my directive. It should have some attributes so that I can supply value to. It will have some markup of its own. So in my user, where are we going to use it? I'll simply say my attribute. I'll supply the parameters to it. Okay, and some magical will dump there, and it will start behaving the way I want. Okay. Probably I'll show you an example first on this. See, in my page, the base page, I have created called a directive called to dos. Yeah, sorry. Oh my God. Is the service? Yeah. I know. The shortcut is not working. Better? Does it work? Better? See, this is my normal app, ng app. I have included scripts. I have said a name to this application. Then there is this controller. And what is this to do? I have created my own directive. Okay. When it starts working, this is my BSS. This is the same page. This is my controller here. But how did the to-do translate to a div and all this markup inside? See this. I haven't stressed it. Where did it come from? It's coming from a directive. Okay, in my directive I've said that this is my content that my to-dos will have and how it will start behaving. Okay, moving back to the source. Sorry. Where did that go? Yeah. So to-dos I've said here, but how will Angular know that what to associate what to-dos? So the JavaScript here, my application, I have a directive called to-dos here. Okay, I've named it. So while bootstrapping, Angular will register that to-dos is a directive and I should be careful for. And what does it return? It returns something over here. These are configuration parameters. Okay, and one specifically should be template URL. A template URL provides a template for a directive that it should substitute for. Okay, so that template actually you can specify any URL to it, and that I have done it here. My partial and to-dos here, and see. This is the markup that got dumped there. Okay, so this is how basically a directive works. Say something, it will look for a partial template to use it for, and work. Template is again not necessary if it's optional. Maybe it's a behavior thing that you're going to. You will never need a template. You don't want to replace it. Okay. So, how to create a directive? Now, what are facilities that you have in when we're creating a directive? So, first you create a module, then call a directive function on it. Okay, use this method and supply a name to it. So, in my case, I've said my directive. Then there's a function again, which should return something, a JSON object. Okay. Now, what JSON should have? These are configs. These are generally heavily used ones. Okay. There are many more that obviously you have to explore further. So, I can tell you what restrict is used for. Restrict is basically first you specify that my tag, my directive should be a tag, or it should be an element attribute, or it can be a class name. Say in my class attribute I specify some class name and probably that class name has nothing, but it's a directive. So it's a trigger hint for Angular to pick up that directive. And then the M is for, I showed you that it's a comment. In the comment also you can say it. So it's not necessary that you say only A, you can have any values over E, A, C, M out of it. And you can use any combination. Even an element can be an attribute. You can say E, A also. It works. Then there are these things. Template and template URL. This is basically when you're abstracting your views. I said some dump is there, HTML, probably you want to simplify. I said to do and what it pointed to, you have to say the URL here. Okay. Template URL, in this template URL, I give a path. If my template is basically very huge, I probably want to stuff it into one partial HTML and call it here. If it is small enough, I can directly say template and I wrap it in a parent div and all my content inside, markup. Then there is replace. Well, this is optional if you like it. So what is my do is, when I said in my markup, I said to-dos, but ultimately I didn't see any tag to-dos there. So it's basically replacing it. You can set it as false. So basically it will come under to-dos. So to-dos will be there and that dump will create inside it. Okay. I'll show you an example if required. Okay. I'll show you. So let's just create as false. Now, I'll cover that in the final demo. Let's go. Basically, think that you don't want to dump something inside it, you want to place it outside. What is transclude? It can have two values, false and true. Transclude is basically, I'm creating a new tab directory. I'm a tab directive, and a tab usually has content inside it, okay, and a title. So the content will, I will say that I tag open and close. In that, I'll say my markup. Now, when I declare a tag directive, there should be a template associated. It will have its own markup. But if it starts painting that markup, where did the initial markup go? My content of the tab go? So you have to specify that, okay, now you're expecting a content and you need to probably dump it inside your created directive markup. Okay. So for that, you use transclude. Okay, transclude. Say it is default is false. You say it true, and also see here in my one of the tags in my markup I said ng transclude. So basically I'm telling Angular that this is the place you have to base the dump the base markup. What you're expecting in the tag. Okay. Then there is a scope. Now every directive you can also ask for a scope. You can pass variables to it. You can pass value to it. You can normally strings, numbers, but you can also pass a variable that is bounded to the parent scope. Okay, so you want any change to happen here, you want the parent to also have the same change. But probably when you're extending, scaling your application, you don't want to clobber your parent, your values, your directive models over there. So what you can do is you create an isolate scope. Isolate scope will create a separate scope object for your directive. Okay, so you can rename it differently, and when you have different way object itself, when you change that, probably the parent won't get collided by it. There won't be any collisions. Okay, so you don't have bugs over there. So okay, now when you see a scope, you can supply properties in it. So this will be available as a values on your scope variable. Okay, so I can so local foo will be available inside my directive markup dump. Okay. But it might not be necessary that local foo will be existing on my parent controller also. Okay, this is local, but you can say that which value, where do you get the value from the local foo from? This is basically initialization. That when you create a directive, there is value associated to it. Okay, now you want to initially set it to some values. How do you do that? You do it through this mechanism. If you say in my directive, see, I have set some attributes. Okay, this is my variable that I want my directive to look for, okay, and you have to supply some value to it if you require. If you supply some value to it, you have to pass it to directive. You will pass that name attribute here instead of local foo here. Okay, and foo will be I'm sorry, I'm reverse. So the attribute name goes here in this space, and in your scope you say local foo. This will again clear. I'm just saying let's consider this abstract. I'll show an example and this will get clear. Okay, so there are three mechanisms how you can pass values into your directive. That is through using at. That means you're expecting a string value or the native object. They probably won't update. Okay. If you're expecting a variable, that probably you want to expose it. You make change here. Those things get changed. Use an equal sign. And when you say expression, then probably you have to wrap it some binding that you can specify here. And Angular will start reflecting those bindings. Controllers and require. There can be a case where an element can have multiple directives associated to it. Okay, I said ng min length, and I also have tags. Input tag, there will be an attribute type, and also there will be like ng enabled, disabled, or many directives on one element tag itself. But how do those? If I want that two controllers, two directives want to communicate with each other, at that time the controllers come to action. This controller will be specific to this directive. It has passed the scope, and it will again have dependencies on it. Okay, and the other, say controller 1 wants to communicate to the controller 2. Directive 1 wants to communicate to directive 2. Okay, so directive 1 will have a controller function associated with it, and the second directive will have a require. Okay, associated with it. So here the name should be the other directive. So controller 1. Making sense? There is also a link function. Probably when you are, say you want to create something dynamic, okay, like a tab or date picker, probably there will be events associated to something should happen, it should open something, okay. Most of the time binding will help you. But in case you want to again do something out of the box, you can have events attached. You want to specifically attach events to some buttons and all to respond to those bindings to HTML. So link function helps you there. A link function is basically when your instance of the directive is getting created. When you say a to-do and Angular senses and replaces, tries to write something on the to-dos, it will call the link function if you have. This is optional. So what in link, you get a chance that you can bind events to the specific elements in your template. Okay. So in that you can say behaviors like one element should listen to other element and should bind differently. You should animate it. All those things, the event bindings specific to one element, it should go in your link function. Okay, link function gets the scope is passed to it, you get all the elements that are attached present on that directive. You can have another attributes and other controllers passed to it. Okay, when you say controller, you have to say controller so that the link gets a controller here. Okay, that's all the gist is. Now to basic demos. Okay, let's create a basic to-do application. To-do app. Create a simple to-do. I just hold it there. I just hold it. Okay, now what my attempt was here, that oops, I want to create a to-do app that where there's a text box here. I can insert some to-do actions here. I can add them. Okay, and these counts are there, which will get updated automatically as I write something here. So when I insert first tag, it will say that 0 of 1 has been remaining. So let's have a demo. Say I have my start. See, the normal its binding is it created an input element for me, okay, and it gave me a remove option for it. So this is my basic to-do app, okay, how I created. So you click on write some task here, you can add it, it gets injected, and obviously the states are getting reflected automatically, 2 of 2. If you want to remove it, click on remove, it's gone. Say, and if you click on checkbox, then probably you can mark it as okay, it's completed. The bindings automatically change here. The numbers automatically change. Similarly, you can add more. I can say cleared. Okay. Now, how did this happen? What do I do for this? Let's see first. Partials, not partials. Simple to do. HTML. Basically, I have first injected my Angular into it. This is my again module library for script for this. Then ng app here. Then I have a controller assigned on this div. Then what do I have is I have a form here. Okay. Then I have a UL, and I've used a directive here called ng repeat. Okay. ng repeat has this syntax wherein you supply a list to it and it will iterate over it and create basic dumps repeatedly. Okay. So this is my input type text. Focus, as I say, input type text is basically that where I inserted my task name. I bound it to ng model of new to do, and then I had a submit button which was assigned ng click. It was assigned a function call. Okay, similar to like normal click attributes. If you click it, add will get called. Okay, when the add happens, what happens is initially my to-do list is blank. So nothing is there. So that's why you didn't see any of this before. Okay. Initially this was like this. Say I remove this. This is my initial case. My form is gone, my ULs are gone, my LIs are gone. As I add this, it gets injected into your LI and ng repeat updates itself and creates some markup for you. Now let me see how did I bind my function on it. Okay. So the script is just simple to do control. Okay. See this simple to do control. It's passed the scope, dependency injection, Angular supplies it. Okay. Initially, what did I do is I assigned a to-do list as blank, no object, nothing. That's why ng repeat didn't work. Then I assigned an add function on the scope. See, that's what I said. When you want to communicate from the model to the view, you have to use scope object. And add function, I'm making it available on the scope object. So this is how I do it. Scope.add, it's a function, it can do anything. Here what I do is to-do list.push new object onto it. It will have a property called completed and it will have property called text. The text, what value will be injected, the value that you see next to the checkbox is this scope.new to do. The new to do, remember that what I inserted and added that thing gets reflected here. So it creates a new object and resets the new to-do. And then as it gets pushed on the to-do list, the ng repeat comes into action and starts painting it. So it creates a list element for you. Okay. What does this list element contain? It contains an input checkbox that probably you can select and mark it as completed. You can have label where I write the text, what my text was, and I can have button to do remove off. Okay. So input checkbox, this is tied to to-do.completed. Where did complete come from? It's a part of to do. And where did to do come from? It's from to do in the ng repeat. Okay. So when the ng repeat functions, it will supply you, if it has something, it will supply that object to you. And it's available on this complete part. So ng complete, what is said, sorry, here, ng complete. So as soon as when something, when I checkbox is checked, the to do complete status gets updated. Okay. And this Boolean model I sense in the ng class here. Okay. The ng class has to apply this completed whenever this flag is set. So this means that your checkbox is set. It should apply this completed class. And completed class is based on nothing that gives the effect of strike through. That's happening. That is marking it off. Okay. Then there is a button called remove. This again calls the remove API that I obviously have exposed on the function. My controller. See remove. What it does is basically removes that to do from this list by passing the index. Okay. So and how does this remaining and those things get computed? See this. Okay, this is not the part. This is the part. See, these are my bindings. I have a function call in the rem bindings. They basically said 0 of something, something of total remaining. So how do I get the something? It is through the remaining call. Okay. And of total list will be to-do list.length. Initially my to-do was not there, so length was 0. So it showed 0 and 0 of 0 remaining, because then what does my to-do remaining do? The remaining function is here. I say whenever any of these models get updated, you have to call the remaining function. Okay, that's how binding works. Any of the child object that it got updated, it will call the remaining, and what it will do is basically a computation logic that it will sense that how many are completed, how many are not. So it will loop over all the available to-do items and check if it is completed. If it is completed, it will compute a count. It will increment it and basically only return that. So probably when you are seeing this, see, this is like 1 of 1 remaining. So total item is 1 to-do list, and it has only 1 item, and it is not completed. So it is 1 of 1 is remaining. Now once I set this, the completed attribute will get set. It will appear strike through, and the count will get updated. Clear? Any questions? Yep. Mike. Someone has it? Sorry. Huh?
Rendered again, or it's like a specific element that I added to the
Specific element. Specific element only.
So it will sense that I have done the modification.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Anyone? No? Okay. Okay. Now I'll use this application completely as a base, and I will show you other features that I have. So basically how services are there. First I will show you how it's converted into a single page application. Okay. Yeah, my Spa to do a single page application has 2 pages. One is a login page, and then second page is to do. If you get valid across here, it'll take you to the next page. Now notice that it's how the URL is. It's a Spa to do, right? And you have separated by hash login. So, okay, this is how my login page would look like. Okay, this is how, and this container to do single app is a basic base page container. So this will help you distinguish basically if the completely page is getting refreshed, or internal contents is getting refreshed. Okay, so I supply a username to it. There's no validations yet. That's another example. My login was successful, and it took me directly to the welcome page. And here again I can add same to dos here. Okay, it gives me a facility that see my address. It's again changed. it went to welcome page. And then what did I have is logout link. And basically this will again reset it back to login page. Although this looks like Angular doesn't provide login and logout features for you. It just directly swaps pages. You have to manage your internal states. Okay. So once I log out, I directly go to my login page. So how does this work? Now check this out. It has, I have routed my script Angular. Now for routing capabilities, Spark capabilities, I will need another Angular library called Angular route. It's again module separated out by Angular itself. You want to use it. Now this is my script Spark to do application module and ng app. And what do I do is my markup. See the h1 to do simple app, but below it there's the part that I want to refresh, which I say ng view. That's it. Okay. Now how does ng view work is this will automatically manage your internal URL locations, updating it whenever it senses it will move back to some other places. History management basically, and which page, which controller. Each markup that I have, it will have a controller of its own. You have facility to do that. So each HTML will associate one controller. And where do you say that? Where do you configure that? It's into this part to do app, right? So notice the first part here. Like this again, same thing. So see this Angular module to do my module name and dependency ng route. That's what script that I injected. Okay, and that is named as ng route. They define in the docs. So I included that, and my module now is available with the Spark capabilities. Then what did I do is I have a config here. This is a way how you provide configs into Angular. Okay, you have to specify this part. Specifies that what path should lead you to what HTML dump and what should control it, your business controller. So what I do is when someone comes to hash / login, you should include this part into your page, inject this page. So where do I specify this is? I've assigned a partial a URL to this. Okay, partial. This is a location where my template URL sits. So partial / login. I'm sorry. This is the login page. So you saw login form. It came from here. So they see this. The inner part where the username and user password field were. This is the one. You have a button here. Okay, button here, and you have submit and a reset button here. So this forms my welcome login page. So this is the DOM that governs it. Now obviously since this is an HTML, who is the controller for this? Again going back to my module. My controller here I said, here is that login control. Okay, the login control is available below. See here, login control. This is the same thing that I wrote here. Okay, the scope, the location. Now I get a service called location that is provided by Angular route. I wanted it, I just said it, I want it. Angular supplied me. Okay, Angular location service is used for moving from one page to another page. So I said when validated username password is validated, the username equals to username some password. If it is correct, then take the location to /welcome. So I move to my welcome page. Okay, if it is not, just reset. So basically this is the validation part. Okay, now when it welcome page, what comprises in the welcome page? Where is it from? Same thing in this login. I said, okay, when someone goes to the welcome page, what markup should you use? Well, it's defined here, partial / to do HTML, and I have something called here partials and partials to do HTML. So to do HTML again, this is the same thing that I showed you earlier, right? Welcome, remaining, to do application dump. So this forms the base of the page. What should like, and who controls it? Again, say it here. Controller, the to do controller, which I have already mentioned here. This is again similar. Location service. When I click on logout, where this is, I had a method called logout. Okay, that the logout button, I declare a method that whenever someone clicks on it, call logout method. And what does logout method call? Location.path. It changes, goes back to the login page. Okay. So this is a gist of basic, and of course, when nothing of the none of the paths match, where does it go to? You say otherwise, and redirect to login page. So every other part probably the user strays on will come back to the login page. This is a normal SPA page, SPA capabilities. Now services. I'll show you an example. Same thing, although here in SPA's to do controller, yeah, the validate, check the validate method. I'm doing it manually. Username equal to Murtaza and some password, right? I probably, this will be required on several other pages or several other pages. Yes.
What if the user navigates to some random path while he is already logged in?
Again, I said otherwise. Otherwise, it will
Okay.
be on directing you to the login page.
Okay, so he will be logged out and then.
No, you won't. Again, in my login controller, I've checked that if I'm again validating, I'm validated. Okay, I don't have to go on the login page. I'll go to the welcome page.
Okay.
So here, see this. Yep, sorry. Let me answer him first. Your eyes through? You're convinced?
No.
You answered?
Yeah.
Okay. See, when I'm on the to-do controller, when I'm on the welcome page, and I move to the someone goes back to the login page, I've added a check here. Validate that path. Oh, okay. This is. I'll show you in the next example. I've built in.
Okay,
that.
fine.
Okay. Yes.
Can user directly go to the welcome page to the property one?
Yes. Yes, he can. So it's your responsibility to validate there itself and again take him back to the login page. Angular just manages your history. You see, you go, you press the back button, it'll take you back. Where it should take you, Angular decides that. But when to take it, you should control that.
Okay, that means I need to validate
Yes.
that page on initialization.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So now services. How do I write a service? Where I write in a service? This obviously the markup looks same for this example. The markup is exactly same. The difference is in the my script library, where it is. I create a service here, login service. All the markups I have dumped here. Okay, is login successful? User equal to this, password equal to this, and I expose few APIs. Get user credentials, set user credential, is logged in, and login. Okay, these APIs I want someone else in the controller to be using it. So what do I do is in my login controller, I inject this. I get the service free of charge. Okay, automatically through Angular. Then I directly say that if my login service, I check if it is logged in. So this is how I written my service, that whenever it is logged in, it will be blank. It will say you false. So when it is false, you take it back to the welcome page. Okay, if he is logged in, you don't have to take him to the login page. You have to take him directly to the welcome page. So this is how you manage it. Okay, and suppose in case the login was false, then you already suppose on your welcome page you went directly. To fix that, what I've done is here. If user is not logged in, take him back to the login page. Okay. Now in login controller, again, what do I do is login service or get logged in, and then in my login, someone says that username is supplied password and click submit or login. Then what do I do is validate that scope.username password is the same. Okay, for this is the initial part. Where was that? Set user credentials. Okay, in that place probably I'll call this API. See, set user credentials in there. So it will keep a memory in username and password. It will set it, and whenever I want it, I will display it. Okay, using the same service because I have exposed get services also, get user credentials. So I'll use that and paint my view with that. Okay. Now Ajax. The top part remains same. There's a login service here. Login service, there's a method called login which will help me login. It will pass a username and password. This happens basically when the controller, when someone clicks the login button. Okay, the login controller, let me show you that. The login controller has a method called login. So the button calls this method. Here I get a login service dot login, and I pass a username and password to it. Okay. Remaining of the further part, this is a promise. This is a basic. Consider it as a basic one. Let's say there is a promise available. This is an advanced step. Probably you'll need to look at the references and you'll explore this further. Okay. So I use a service here, login service. I say that I want to log in with this username and password. This login, in my service, what do I do is I check if there is a username or password available. If it is not, okay, if it is not supplied, I'll directly reject it. So same error message will come up, but it won't go to the service, to the server. Now what do I do is later on if else, okay. Otherwise, http.get. See, this is the service nitty-gritty basic service that helps you communicate with the web services, with the server. Here you say HTTP. Now I wanted this service, but where did I get it from? Here. Okay. HTTP Angular injected for me, and there is an API called get. You supply the URL, you supply the parameters to it, and it will give you a response. If it is okay, then I'll send back that login.resolve promise, and here the values will get updated. See, on do login success, button disabled to false, path to welcome. He went to login page. Okay. True? Any questions? Okay. Now probably I'll show you. Do you want a verification for this? That yes. Okay. The Ajax was here. See, this uses a higher level of one more advanced level. It uses JavaScript promises. Okay. Once you send a promise, you have to compile it, and those you send it back. It's an object, but it will resolve when the parent finishes this task. Okay. So something you should do that promise.resolve. Okay. When you say resolve, you have to supply the data to it, and then when that happens. This login promise, then check if I get the data to successful login. Okay? The data I got it from here. You see this validate.success? This again HTTP service gave me a promise. This promise, when it was on success, it gets true, it will send you data from the server. I got the data here. Okay? Data, what did it look like? Basically, my server is sending this data back. Sorry. Services. So my request was something like this. Because it's a get, it's our users are going to be like this. What did I respond with is error is 0, there is no error, and the nickname to use is some data, MTZ. Okay. So that data I'm getting here in this data object. And if I don't have any errors, okay, and the success went through, set the credentials of this service to these username password, basically cache it, and then resolve, promise.resolve with this data. And in your controller, here, since you're supplying a data here, I get data, it's a success case, then do successful login. And do successful login, where do I go? Here, button disabled and path welcome. I go to the welcome page. True? Okay? Yes, sir. Sorry. Yes. I here did it through a factory. Session side?
Sessions ID.
Session ID. You'll have to construct headers for that. Okay, so HTTP, it was a simple example where I just dot get. It also has a capability that you can say headers in it, and there you can supply session ID into it. Okay, in the responses also you can cache that and keep it with you. For the future, you can use that. Okay, like how I cache things here, the username and passwords. In my service, these are my private variables that I'm using, right? Username, password, certain. Whenever service goes through, I set these values. So probably you can write an intelligent logic around it that whenever this is available, use it. Okay, for headers and values. Yes, sir. Anyone else? Question? Yes.
So let's say I bookmark a URL, say my to-do list.
Okay.
Then I'm not logged in, so
Okay.
it took me to login page.
Yes.
Now, is there any provision to remember that URL and take me back to my to-do list?
You have to write that logic.
We'll have to, but
You
there,
have that.
there is no provision.
No, Angular won't. Okay. It doesn't because you should have control over it. Yes.
We had those two callbacks there, right? Success and on success and
This one.
yes,
Success.
these are when HTTP is 200 success and failure, or
It returns a yes
so it's when HTTP
service.
success.
Yes. Basically, success is also this type of what response you're getting, right? It will provide a service callback for you, success callback for you. Okay, the promise itself.
Again, promise. Okay.
It's a promise. Yes.
So instead of HTTP, can I make an AJAX request? $AJAX, like regular
Yes, you're
AJAX?
free to. You can use any other library to make a call.
Yeah, but that AJAX has their own success and failure, right?
This is similar. You won't need anything else if you use this.
Okay. I mean, same.
Yes.
It works same like an AJAX.
Yes, it's the same. Like it is Ajax. It is Ajax.
Okay.
Okay, this will use.
Basically, you have HTML activity request object. There are multiple wrappers on top of it. So, wrapper written by Angular based Java CDB service. And there is even higher level layer wrapper also on it. And jQuery has its own wrapper that we are talking about on the cloud. There are other services also writing wrappers on top of
The basic HTML.
you can use any one of them.
So if you want to use it, you just have to inject it. So probably when you're using jQuery, jQuery directly uses global. So Angular doesn't know global values, right? Variable. So you can directly use. It's a global expose, right? You can directly say $.htp.get. Yes. Mike, please.
Hello. Let's say after successful login, I redirected to welcome page, and then I reloaded that page, welcome page. So will it clear that cache?
So browser refreshes.
Yes.
So it will reload. See, then what I'll have to do is I'll have to do session management also
Okay.
through cookies or something.
So this will clear that cache, right?
Yes, yes. If you refresh the page, it's gone.
Thanks.
Okay, this is in memory because I've implemented that way. You can even set it on your cookies, like how the normal web applications is. And probably at the time of when you're rendering the page, you can read it from the cookie initially,
Okay.
so that you can know, okay, this was logged in previously.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Yep. Which one? I can't hear you. Sorry. Line 58. Self equal to this. This is basically I'm going into Clojure and I want to use it. So here, when I go inside, this will change, right? In JavaScript, right? This is a normal one. When you go inside a function, this changes. So I want to preserve that. So what you do is I declare a variable outside where this is, assign it on self, and I can use a closer to get the hold of that this. Okay. Anything else? Yes, it is. It should be through. See, there's two ways. If the database itself has a web client, you can directly make a REST call from here, REST API service, right? Like you have done HTTP, you can have resources. So the resources has capability of doing REST API calls. It has something of get, post, put, delete.
Storage.
Local storage. Okay. Yeah, you can do it. See, whatever is exposed, it's exposed globally, right? You can make use of browser default APIs here itself.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have to manage it. You'll have to write like logic around it. Okay. And one more example was simple. See how to do app I created in the time of directives. Okay. The simple to do directive I just cached here, and my to do directive. How does it look like? my directive to do's. I say it should be an element. Here's the markup, and I should replace the parent container. Got generated there. Now I want to extend it further. Let's say I want to give you an example of. Again, you can have directives inside directives. Okay, there's n number of levels you can create. Angular doesn't put a limit on that. So one directive can call another directive from inside its body. That will get directed. Okay. And tabs directive, one more example, last and final, I think, I hope. See, there's a tabs directive here. This tabs directive has another directive called tab, which I have created. This contains some body. So I've created multiple. This is my title to be used for the tab, and this is my body to be used. So you should know that what tabs and what should render inside. Here it is. In the partials, what's a tabs directive demo? Here I create two directives. Tabs, this is the parent directive, and this is the child directive. Okay, tabs. Tabs should come under tabs, obviously, as I have rendered over there. I say tabs, it should be an element. It should have this markup specified in this so-and-so HTML. Replace it, transclude it, because when a tab gets and my dump and gets dumped, I want my content also should get dumped there. Which content? Inside the tab, exactly. Plus others, and I have. See this content, the tab and the div. This is the body that it has. So it should transclude it. But where should it transclude it? You'll look in the partial and you'll come to know. This is the tabs HTML. So I said transclude here. Okay. So this is the transclude. The body will get dumped in this div. Okay. And similar, I can have markup some above doing my own things. I am basically creating a link for the header part of the tabs. Then I have another. Now this is a tabs. Now what do my tab inside inner tab? What does it look like? It's again an element. Since it was small, I just wrote a div here, markup template here itself. It has a transclude, it has a scope on its own, and it uses a require. The require, see, there's a controller available here. So by my tabs, I have some APIs written, I've made some function calls. Where do the function calls come from? It comes from a controller. So that controller is supplied here. So see, $scopes got supplied, and I had some show me and add methods here. Now, I do some functions here, it's a business logic, okay? Now, I want this controller that whenever my tab gets created, it should also register itself to the parent directive. So basically there's a communication from the base to the parent. So I expose a method called add here, okay? And I expect that this tab will call that method whenever it's created. So this tab gets created in the link function, this link function gets, and this is the place where I hook up things. Okay, I say tab controller. Since see how this tab controller relates it gets it from here, tab control. Now Angular injects it, but what Angular doesn't know what to replace this with. So to help this, I have a require attribute here, which says that look for a tabs directive above me. That's why above arrow and tabs, and it will look for this controller. Okay, and this tabs controller then got supplied, and I call add scope. So basically it got registered and we'll have selected attributes and all functional business logic around it. Okay, so hello. Do you want to look at this? Hello. Here. Markup, anchors got created in the tabs directive. Then where did the body of all the directives go? It goes here. This is where I place ng transclude. Check this. Ng transclude, and all my body got dumped here for all the divs. Okay. First tab Am I visible? Am I audible? Hello? Yep, okay. I hope it goes. Probably last end of the session. Okay, first tab, second tab, and third tab. Okay? See, first tab, it has it has a click assigned here. ng element. Okay, see this. I created 3 tabs in my HTML. What did I create? Yep, here. See this. I created 3 tabs. The first title should be first tab, and this is the body. Similarly for second tab, and this is the body for it. I'm a second tab, right? The third similarly. So here you have the title comes first right into the place where I want it, and the body gets furnished here in the base part. You switch it, that internal switching automatically happens. Okay. You want say 2 more minutes? Yeah. I'll give you an example of the form also. Probably let me check if I have it here. Yeah, form validations. See my login page. This is a SPA page that had. I'm doing it from the login page. I provide a username and password validations. So I have a form here. I give a name, login form, and I say no validate. Internally, I have input fields here. Okay. The first is the username for username, and for username, I say that my name should be username field. This is what I will use while checking for validations. And username is the property that I want the status, the value should get reflected to. So this don't get confused between username field and username. Okay. Username contains the actual value that user has typed in, and username is for validations. I say 2 validations, required and ng minimum length. Okay. Required means required, and ng minimum length says to 6. So when I give offshoot of 6, I say that user should at least pass this character. I need this to be shown when something breaks. Okay. When I go above 6 characters. See this username. So my required, this was required. Okay. I type something, I go back. See this username should be at least 6 characters. It's gone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's gone. Okay. For specific things. Now, if you say this, there are errors in the form also, I can say, because I haven't filled this, the below. So Angular automatically adjusted all those field states, and it verified that there is some error. And in that case, it took action. It updated some attributes, and I have assigned some classes to those attributes using ng class, and that's why this shows the default error message. Okay, the source will be for here. ng show if my login form dot username field is dirty, and if it has error of required, then show this mandatory message. If my username field error has minimum length, this was the error, then show this character. Okay, this is how binding works and how internal state is managed. No, not necessary. You can place it anywhere you want. So you want that username should be always before the password field. Angular only manages enabling and disabling part, the hiding and showing part. So I have done here, see this. This will affect this property, right? So ng show I have used. I've used ng show here. So ng show is hooked to one variable, right, one property, and this property gets directly updated by Angular. So that's done. Yes, exactly. So you can place para here itself or on the top of the body. It's your wish. Yes.